we reconnected over the pandemic, over the phone, just to talk screenplays and write together. And so we had our next weekly writing session a matter of days after the incident occurred. And she said, "Let me know when you get tired of people calling you brave."
That was Kyle Casey Chu, aka Panda Dulce. I'm Jeff, and this is Storied San Francisco, a podcast about artists, activists, and small businesses that make this city so special. Welcome to the first episode of Pride 2025. In this bonus podcast, meet Kyle, a born and raised San Franciscan and fourth-generation Chinese American. The episode is about After What Happened at the Library, a short film that Kyle and her friend Roisin Eisner wrote about a horrible incident that happened to Panda Dulce at a drag story hour event in the East Bay back in 2022. Here's Kyle Casey Chu.
So I am a fourth-generation Chinese American. On my mom's side, I'm fourth generation, so my grandpa was born and raised in Oakland, went to Oakland Tech. And on my dad's side, he's from Hong Kong by way of London. And so I've been in the Bay Area for 3-4 generations. And in terms of schools, I went to Jefferson Elementary in the Sunset because they had a really good inclusive special education program. My twin brother has autism.
Okay.
And so early on, I advocated for him in the schoolyard and the classroom, taught my classmates American Sign Language, presented on, and volunteered for Special Olympics. Went to AP GNNE, also in the Sunset. It was either that or Hoover. That was like those were the pipelines, you know?
Okay.
Those were the paths, I should say.
Right.
And then from there, I went to Lick-Wilmerding.
Okay.
For a year. Wasn't my thing. So
of all the San Francisco schools, my favorite to say.
Yeah, it's a fun thing to say. Because usually when you say that to somebody who's not familiar, they go, "Wait, where do you go?"
Yeah, you just made up some words.
And you're like, you'd think.
Yeah.
So I transferred my sophomore year to School of the Arts, and I majored in music.
Yeah, was this before it was Ruth Asawa or?
Yes, I think
just soda.
Yeah, it was just San Francisco soda at the time.
Got it. That is one of the biggest connectors of guests of my podcast, the other being SF State.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Wait, you know what? I think it was Ruth Asawa, actually. Like, in the middle of my tenure there, they changed it.
Oh, that's a fun time to go there then.
I know. Woo!
Yeah. So, and then did you go to college?
Yes. I went to Sarah Lawrence in New York and majored in ethnic studies and arts, and then I went to Columbia for social work.
Okay, but you came back.
I came back.
There's always that part of, I feel like SF natives, if they ever leave, you don't have to come back.
Right.
But you did. Do you want to talk about that real quick?
Yeah. I loved New York for the stage of my life I was in when I lived there. After a while, I just missed the slowness. I missed being like a quick little squirrel in a slow environment. I also missed the creative communities I came of age with here, and the queer things, the Asian things, and being close to my family. So.
I mean, there's so many little check boxes that you're like.
There are, truly.
Yeah, I did come here from Texas, but by way of New York, and so some of those things speak to me. I'm just like, there's so it's a rat race. New York is, and here I just feel like I was able to breathe.
You know, I'm really glad you brought up that word breathe, because that's exactly how it felt. When I was in New York, it was really fun. It felt like running down a hill really fast. I always felt like I was holding my breath. And whenever I came back to visit, I felt like I could finally relax. And so that's what I chose.
Awesome.
Breathing.
Yes, it's kind of important. Okay, can we now talk about San Francisco Drag Queen Story Hour?
Yes, of course.
And also just thank you for doing it.
Oh, of course. It's fun.
Yeah.
It's a good old time.
How did that get started?
So Michelle T, a renowned lesbian writer, founded Drag Story Hour because she had a kid. And she realized there was a dearth of spaces for parents of queer kids or queer parents themselves. And so she thought, why not bring the dazzling magic and spectacle of drag queens to youth spaces? And of course, this riled up the right because they have overactive imaginations.
Yes,
And will cast us in whatever sordid play in their heads that they want to, which is, a different reality. But specifically, Michelle was looking for drag queens who had youth work experience.
Okay.
And as you might imagine, being a nightlife art form, not a lot of drag queens have that. And so Persia, Eve St. Croissant, Black Benatar, Little Miss Hot Mess, and I all had some form of youth work experience. And so they decided to pilot it.
What was yours, if I can ask? Your experience.
I worked as a K-5 Spanish immersion teacher.
Nice.
I worked as a special ed teacher, a music teacher, a camp counselor, and I got the social work degree.
Damn, that's a lot.
Yeah, so I was working with kids a lot.
That's pedigree and resume.
Oh my God, why thank you. And so yeah, it seemed natural to me, and it's funny because when I was working in SFUSD after school programs, there was always this quandary amongst queer teachers about whether or not to disclose their queer or trans identity, how much of it to discose.
In San Francisco,
where
you'd think, right.
Right. Because, some people argue it's not relevant. Some people argue, of course you need to bring that. Of course you bring that to the classroom. You can't extricate that from the experience or a learning environment.
Right.
And for me, I just didn't touch it because, I don't know, I just didn't.
You can't second guess yourself, right?
Yeah.
It's just like, no, we're just here now.
Right. And so what I really loved about this program is that it said, why wouldn't you bring your true self to your work? Why wouldn't you bring all of you?
Yep.
Because they need that. And that's what I found magical and healing about it.
So you're a founding queen.
Yes.
And was it through SF Drag Queen Story Hour that the incident that we will talk about and that the movie is all about, was it through that you were, was that separate?
Technically, yes. So San Francisco Drag Story Hour is the founding chapter.
Got it.
And I was asked to do this gig in San Lorenzo, which is in the East Bay, through that chapter.
So I'm guessing that you went into that day like any other story hour.
Yes.
You're thinking, oh, it's just another.
Yeah. It was just the first trip in, a line of Pride Month activities that I had for that day. So I was going to do that in the morning. I was dressed up in a SF Giants look, actually.
Oh, okay.
And then afterwards, I was going to meet my drag sisters from the Rice Rockettes at, what is it called now? AT&T Park?
I was
gonna be my
really
drag
cool
sisters.
place. I don't know the name of it.
Yeah, me neither.
Who can keep up?
Garlic fries. I don't know.
Yeah.
I was gonna meet them at the garlic fries. I was gonna meet them at the ballpark afterwards, and we are gonna do a little photo shoot.
Okay. Were you all dressed up as giants?
Yes.
That's why. Okay. Yeah.
Some array of black and orange.
Yes.
Obviously, those plans were derailed. So I guess the footnotes of this, because you could read about it anywhere online, is that in 2022 in June. The Proud Boys stormed my drag story hour in San Lorenzo, shouting transphobic slurs. They called me a pedophile, a tranny, and an it. I had to lock myself in a back room and wait for the authorities to come. And when the authorities came, they didn't even get a slap on the wrist. They were just asked to leave politely. No names were collected, no information. And in the aftermath, when they were under media scrutiny, they said they were investigating it as a hate crime. At the end of the day, they said it was out of their hands, and they were actually the ones accountable for taking action on this. And they said that they could not press hate crime charges, but that's inaccurate because hate crime enhancements can be applied to any transgression, and there were transgressions made. So, par for the course. I think essentially, obviously you can't prepare for something terrible like that to happen.
Right.
But what I was wholly unprepared for was being under the media microscope, which, in addition to dealing with like gushing praise and love letters and like death threats and transphobic threats, trauma dumps, I was also kind of used as a canvas for people to project what they felt a victim in this situation should react as, or how they should react. So journalists would kind of prod me to say certain things and say, don't you think this? What would you say to these people who think it's inappropriate? Right. And so at a time where I'm in the process of actively processing this event, there are narratives being pushed on me that aren't my own words. And then after asking me to relive the experience, they would just extract one tearful soundbite and plug it into an existing formula that they had.
Right.
And so it kind of felt like a series of injustices that I
Right.
couldn't recover from. And my writing partner and I decided to write about this because we wanted to reclaim authorship of the story and dimensionality and kind of draw attention to the inhumaneness of this approach.
I was going to say the humanity of
Yeah.
the lived experience that
Right.
you wanted to write.
Right, because ultimately, I think in interviewing me, I felt a little taken advantage of. Like I was just this sort of puppet who would, say my line to plug into someone else's retelling of the incident.
That's very much in the movie.
I'm so glad that
It
came
is.
across.
Oh, it's there. It's there. I'm curious. You said your writing partner and you wanted to write about it. Was it always intended to be a screenplay, or I'm sorry, a script, a movie, or was it? Did it matter at first? You're just like, we need to get this down.
So my writing partner and I, we met as teenage punks in high school playing in bands.
Fun.
At Soda, actually. And
Wait, can you just quickly name drop your own bands?
oh, yeah. So I was in the Abby-Yo-Yos back in the day, and she was in a band called Tincture.
Okay.
And she's now in a band called Strange Men.
Nice.
That is coming out with an LP soon.
Yes. Love that.
But we were already writing partners or writing wives when this happened.
Okay.
We reconnected over the pandemic over the phone just to talk screenplays and write together. And so we had our next weekly writing session a matter of days after the incident occurred. Okay. And she said, "Let me know when you get tired of people calling you brave." And I realized in that moment that she had also suffered public trauma as a 17-year-old on July 4th in Dolores Park. An errant CO2 cartridge bomb caused her to lose her finger.
Oh my fuck. Okay.
And it was all over the local news, breathlessly covered by national news. And she overnight became a political football for a conversation on public safety measures and, crime in San Francisco. And her words were turned against her and used for other agendas. And so from this unique vantage point as public victims who, through opportunism and just journalists kind of seizing on the opportunity to interview us, we realized there was, an injustice to this that was a dynamic worth exploring.
Absolutely. Well, congratulations, because you did that that came across in the movie very well.
I'm so glad, Jeff. Thanks.
One thing I'm curious about, because, and this word gets thrown around, but I don't know. I try to see the humanity, like I mentioned, but you're hella vulnerable in this movie, right? How difficult, or was it difficult? I mean, you're kind of reliving a shit experience, but it's an important story to tell. So I just want to know, like, from your perspective, what that all was like to shoot.
Right. It seems kind of counterintuitive because we shot on location at the San Lorenzo Public Library. Right. We cast extremists to yell the exact same transphobic slurs.
They weren't Proud Boys themselves in the movie,
were they?
Okay,
absolutely not. That would be wild.
You're doing this role for free.
I'm just like, hey, yeah, can you do me a solid?
You're paying us.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So people often ask me, like, why would you do this? Why would you relive this? Why would you go back? And I think what's interesting and perhaps counterintuitive is that I never really left. And, it's like what they say in social work school about trauma is just like, a digestive system, you're supposed to digest it and it leaves your system and you're done with it. But PTSD is when mid-cycle it gets stuck. And so you
clogged.
Exactly. So you might return to this incident over and over in your head. You might try to recreate this incident just to maintain or to achieve a sort of mastery or control where you didn't have control. And for this film, I had complete control.
Amazing.
I was able to return there with an on-set social worker. We had pre-Zoom conversations with the actors playing extremists to make sure that they knew what psychic space they were entering and that they left it behind when they left set. I was able to cut when I wanted to. We had a decompression tent. We had sage. We had, we had a mindfulness toys in case, you know, all of these measures were taken into account. There was great care in that process.
Right.
And so when it finally came down to the mirror scene, where, you know, it's supposed to be the most cathartic, I didn't have to act. It just kind of came out. And in that way, I was kind of able to exercise all of the pent up everything that I'd accumulated over the course of the aftermath. So
like I don't know how long it took y'all to shoot this, but basically like a long therapy session.
It was. It really felt therapeutic.
And you mentioned catharsis, so
that's
especially now that it's at SF Film.
It is at SF Film.
Is that cathartic for you?
It is cathartic.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. Totally, you know, my pipe dream for this situation was, I'll show them like this terrible thing happened. I'm gonna turn lemons into lemonade, and then I'm gonna be on the red carpet. Like, see, I bettered this. I bested this, and I think that was achieved. And just through all my friends and family being there, it was an emotional night. It was last night.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm just really grateful to the craft, and I'm grateful to SF Film for having us.
Yeah. Anything that you want to plug besides the film?
Yay. Okay. I just released my debut novel. It's a middle grade called The Queen Bees of Tybee County, and it follows 7th grade Chinese American basketball star Derek Chan as he's unceremoniously shipped off to his grandma Claudia's in rural Georgia and explores his queer identity and love of drag through Southern pageant culture. And it was just optioned, so hopefully it'll be on a screen soon near you.
Amazing.
But yeah, it's for sale now, or it's on sale now.
And where can folks find it? And where can they not find it, if you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, wait, what is it called? Bookshop? I think it's called bookshop.com.
That is one, yeah.
Go to Bookshop, go to Barnes & Noble. You know what to do.
Don't give Jeff Bezos any money.
You heard it from, you know, I don't make the rules. Jeff makes the rules.
He's a bad Jeff.
Yeah, we listen to this, Jeff.
Okay, and then anything else coming up in June or down the road from there that you want to plug for yourself?
Coming out with another short film called Betty, and it premieres at New Fest Pride in New York City on June 1st.
That was Kyle Casey Chu, a.k.a. Panda Dulce. On the next episode of Storied, meet Compton's Cafeteria Riot cast members Shane Zaldivar and Saoirse Grace. Episode 16 drops next Tuesday, wherever you get podcasts. Music for Storied San Francisco was produced, performed, and curated by Otis McDonald. Our contributing producer is Aaron Lim of Bitch Talk Podcast. And the show is produced and hosted by me, Jeff Hunt. Now in our 7th season, we have more than 250 episodes available on our website, storiedsf.com, or wherever you listen to podcasts. If possible, please rate and review the show. I want to know what you think. Follow us on Instagram and Threads at storiedsf, and reach us there or email us at storiedsf@gmail.com. Thanks for listening. Be extra careful crossing the street, and keep being wacky, creative, and kind out there. See you next time on Storied San Francisco. We acknowledge and respect the first humans of the unceded land we call San Francisco, the Ramaytush Ohlone. We condemn the genocide of these and other tribes across the Western Hemisphere. We honor their legacy and history, and we support rematriation and sovereignty efforts.
This podcast is a proud member of the BFF.FM podcast network. Learn more at podcasts.bff.fm.
BFF.FM, best frequencies forever.